No, we have a bit where we ask the person to go over a story where something, basically a disaster performance situation. So even the little guys like us can know that the gods fail on occasion.
Yeah, well, it was funny when I read that. I'm like, oh, I have a few stories that I sort of go to, and I'm trying to think. Is because my worst performance is easy, but it is not about anything failing. It's just about how bad I am. Like nothing went wrong except for me. So I think that's probably the one I want to go with here because it's the one that haunts my dreams. So like in Canada, I do a lot of college shows. I do a lot of comedy clubs, a lot of corporate events, and a lot of my own just theater shows. All those audiences, the college club or comedy clubs, colleges, and my theater shows are the same demographic. The corporate events, they're a little bit older, maybe on average, but also in Canada, I'm well known enough that they're booking me on purpose. So I miss out on a lot of corporate events because they're like, yeah, we want to get like a regular magician, not Wes Barker. Cool. So I'm very sort of honed in on who my audience is. But then I got booked for a cruise ship. And it was so bad that I would say, I can't remember what the final number was, but something near like 200 people walked out of my show. And it would have been more, except they're very old, so they can't leave very quickly. And there's only one exit. But the entire 45-minute set on this cruise ship show was just like a reverse waterfall of gray hairs walking up these stairs trying to get out the whole time. And it was just, I did nothing different. It's just my show. So I walk out there, I start the show. The average age in this boat, I'm told before I go out there, is 73 years old. Jesus. And I was like, that's the average age. Okay. I walk out there, there's 1,000 people. It's a huge theater. It's full. I'm like, great. I walk out there, I tell a joke. Everyone laughs. I tell another joke. People laugh, but not as much. I tell a third joke. And this guy in like the fourth row is like, we had the comedian last night. Just do the tricks, magic man. Oh, Jesus. And I was like, I'm like, hey, man, this is kind of how my show goes. I joke around and do some tricks, whatever. And I could tell by my response to his heckling that everyone was on his side. And I was like, oh. So I start doing this, show, and people are just immediately, I can tell some people just exiting. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. You get out of here. And I bring a lady on stage. No one wants to come on stage in these cruise ships. They're all just old. They just want to sit back. They just want to watch the magic happen. Like they're like, bring me Xavier Mortimer, bring me Shin Lim. Do not bring me on stage, right? So I was like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? And I only brought just enough magic. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So every trick I'm bringing people on stage, and they're reluctantly coming up. I bring a lady on stage, and I'm like, can I borrow some money? I'm like, oh, no one carries money on a fucking cruise ship. They just don't. They wear little bracelets that beep everywhere. And I'm like, oh, that's just stupid. I got this lady on stage. I finally do a trick with her. I ask her to, oh yeah, thank you very much. She's old as hell. She goes to walk off. She falls down the stairs. And I was like, how is this happening? People are rushing down there. I'm like, please don't have a broken hip. I'm trying to play it off like, hey, no big deal. Like, oh, I hope you're okay. It made me look bad. It had nothing to do with me. It makes me look bad. But people are nonstop exiting. I had one guy in the front row that I'm like locked onto. His name's Greg. And I'm like, Greg, it's you and me. He's 88. He's got an oxygen tank. Okay. He can't go anywhere. He got there really early because they had to bring him in special because he needs extra assistance to get down there. So I'm like, Greg cannot leave physically. He can't. He had to come early because he can't leave. So he's watching the show. So I just keep talking. I'm like, fuck it. This show's for Greg. So I'm just all into Greg. He's my guy. Talking to him, pick a card, all this stuff, whatever. There's like 3 minutes left. I turn around to do something. I come back and I see Greg's up and he's walking with this Greg and this oxygen tank up the stairs. And I'm like, Greg, no, there's 3 minutes left. And he's like, I don't got time for this. Sorry, he says. And he just walks away. And I get it. He's old. He's going to die soon. He's got to go. He wants to die somewhere else. I get it. But like, holy fuck. So I walk off stage to like, golf claps, whatever, whoever's left. And mad rush for the exit. I go backstage. The guy that booked me comes flying around the thing. He's like, what the fuck was that? He's like, I've been doing this booking acts here for 25 goddamn years. That's the worst fucking act I've ever seen. And I was like, well, hey, man, you fucking looked at all of my promo material. There's hundreds of videos of me. You didn't send me one fucking video of the audience. Okay. So I think this is on you, not me, you fucking idiot. And then we part ways. He storms off. I'm going to pick up all my shit on stage. And the sound guy comes over. He's like, hey, man, don't worry about him. Like, we actually did have a worse guy one time. I was like, that's not what I needed to hear right now, man. Like, I'm second worst ever on that cruise line. So I leave that ship. And I have to come back to that ship. I'm doing back-to-back ships, but I have like 2 days off. I'm flying back to Edmonton, Canada to do a show and then fly back to the ship. And I'm like, holy fuck, this is my first out of 4 shows. I fly to Edmonton and I go do a theater show in Edmonton. Same exact act, right? I'm in my cabin the next 3 days rewriting my act. Like, I need a top hat, I need music cues, I need a dove. Like, I'm just going like whatever. My brain's broken at this point. I go to Edmonton, do my show, standing ovation. I've only ever had like 5 real standing ovations, you know, not like the one that's built into the routine, not like the one where you got it because you know how to do stage fucking presence and all that stuff. Like one where you just finish and people just get up. Only a handful. And this is one of those shows. And I'm like, oh, it's not my show. It's just don't do shows for old people. They're just old Australians on a cruise ship. Don't do those shows. So I go back, eat shit again for another week on the boat, doing 2 more shows that no one fucking likes. They move me into the smallest lounge on the whole boat. Like, I'm supposed to do the theater. They're paying me theater money for like lounge magic for like 5 people. I don't give a shit. Because in my head, I go like, oh yeah, find your audience, you know? But like, man, sucks so bad. I'm drinking at the bar, like the back of the boat by myself. And there's only one other guy in the bar. And he looks at me, he's like, you're not going to tell any jokes, are you? I was like, no, man, it's here to drink. Because it's so bad. So every time I tell the story, I start sweating because it haunts me. Hopefully that was somewhere in the neighborhood of what you guys.
That was the whole thing of having to live with your audience after the show as well.
Yeah.
Just like the worst.
Who designed that? That is so dumb. It sucks so bad. If you kill it, it's great. You're a hero. Yay.
Celebrity for a week.
Yeah. Oh, feels so good.
I like to think that the guy that said the stuff from the front row at the very start was like a spokesperson for the room. They're like, Tom, it's your turn to talk to the
pretty much. And thankfully he was one of the first guys to leave, so the heckling did continue. But definitely the whole audience is like, yeah, someone tell him the comedian was yesterday. You're doing magic tonight. I'm like, great. Even I could tell it was going to be bad because of the tech. You go for like your tech rehearsal, and the crew stuff's like, so what are your lighting cues, music and stuff? I'm like, oh yeah, I don't. And they're like, what? I'm like, I got this video I play at the beginning, so play that, and then there's like music when I walk on. And then there's an outro song when I walk off like that. And like, huh? And there's so like, what do you mean? Like the lighting? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's whitewash, like a comedian. They're like, oh, okay. And there's so if we have an hour, we're just sitting there like no one's got anything to do. And I'm like, yeah, just and man, I was like, the way they're looking, I'm like, I think I'm fucked. And
yeah,
I was. And I've been back. I took like a 3 or 4 year hiatus. I went back and did a cruise ship, and it was much better. But it was much better because I didn't really do my show. I just brought a bunch of magic. I think I did fucking cardiographic and stuff on stage. Like I just did. I'm like, I give them magic, you know, just give them what they want. I think I did fucking fiber optics. I'm cutting ropes. So I'm doing cardiographic, like stuff I'd never performed. That I'm just like, here you go, have it. And they were like, yeah, I'm a magician. They were so happy. I was like, oh, for love of money, I guess, you know, when you're broke, you do things.